How is everybody doing today? Welcome back here today to the Just Ballin' podcast. And I feel like this is maybe a perfect time to finally drop a 2025 NBA head coach tier list. So I did want to do one of these like basically all year. And out of nowhere, the Memphis Grizzlies, with 10 games to go, a team that is a top 6 seed in a Western Conference, fired Taylor Jenkins. Like, what? I don't think we've ever seen a head coach this good, basically, with a team that's going to be having a playoff series, non-playing tournament way. And the Memphis Grizzlies could end up as high as the 2 seed if they go on a run. And they fired Taylor Jenkins. Now, I've been like hearing from Grizzlies fans, and I think like there were some rumblings with like maybe Ja Morant and Taylor Jenkins and their personal connection, and maybe Taylor Jenkins would let go. Now, I'm sure Grizzlies fans can maybe attest to this a little bit more, but I'm sure like Taylor Jenkins rotations, and there's some time with how the offense has been involved with Ja Morant this year. They haven't been a huge fan of it, but I think Taylor Jenkins, I don't know. I think he's a good coach, man. Like in 2023, he brought that Grizzlies team to a 2 seed. I know they lost in round 1. I know his adjustments weren't great against the Lakers, and he got out coached in that series, but I don't know. There's been all the off the court issues, all the on the court issues, all the characters he's had to deal with over the last few years. Like you had Ja Morant's suspension, you have Dylan Brooks' antics on the court. I feel like you had so many injuries in 2023, and then obviously in 2024, and getting the most out of Vince Williams and Gigi Jackson and Jalen Wells and Zach Edey this year. I don't know. Maybe he hasn't had a good relationship, and there's only so much we could know like behind the closed doors and what's actually going on. But he brought like Zach Kleiman, who's a well-respected executive, brought him in and fired him today with 10 games to go left in the year. Kind of insane. I think like I tweeted out that I think Chicago, if they move on from their head coach, Sacramento, Philadelphia, like whoever moves on from their head coach this offseason, Taylor Jenkins is going to be at the number 1 list. And I honestly, I don't know. I don't think like Mitch Johnson has done the best job in San Antonio, and I have no idea what's going on with Pop's health and if he should even coach anymore. But Taylor Jenkins comes from that tree. I think there could be a reunion with him in San Antonio as the head coach, and that's probably what I would do. So, yeah, we're going to talk about a bunch of head coaches today here in a tier list. We have elite, we have great, which I don't know. I guess I'm not going to put that many coaches in elite. We have great, could do better, could do worse. Like, maybe it's like the grass is always greener, right? Like, I want to fire a head coach, but are we going to get anything better than this? We've had so many bad coaches before us. I'm sure I'll have a bunch to put in there. We have bad that I just don't think are good coaches. Unproven. They're still in their first years. Maybe they're dealing with rebuilding teams that are just awful. And then we have should fire after this year that I do think it's going to be, I guess, kind of similar to bad. So I could end up combining those tiers when we're done. So we're going to start off with Nick Nurse. To be honest with you, like, I don't know. I think Nick Nurse was dealt a bad hand this year. I know last year wasn't the best for Sixers fans, and I know this year it was definitely a questionable start with his rotations, his lineup allocations, or minute allocations. And I don't know, though. Like, Paul George was disappointing and got hurt. Embiid gets hurt. Maxey gets hurt at the start of the year. McCain gets hurt. And they're actively tanking, which is a Daryl Morey owner front office thing. It's not Nick Nurse thing. Man. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I don't think Nick Nurse should get fired. Like, I think he's been bad this year. I don't think the Sixers should fire him, but he's going to be the scapegoat. If they're not going to fire Daryl Morey, they're not trading Embiid. You can't trade Paul George. Nobody wants that contract. Nick Nurse is going to be used as the scapegoat. So I don't really think they should fire him, but they probably will. So I'm going to lead that should fire after this season, my opinion. I think Nick Nurse, like he's won an NBA title. Yeah, he had maybe the greatest Kawhi season you could get in 2019 and a fantastic Raptor squad, but that should hold some weight. They made it to a conference finals in 2020, and last year with Philadelphia, another year with a bunch of injuries and Embiid banged up, and I don't know. It feels like he rides with his guys and stuff. I don't know if he's going to be checked out, but like I said, he's going to be the scapegoat. He's probably going to get fired at the end of the year, but I think Nick Nurse, like this is a bad season for Nick Nurse, and it's just going to hell because everybody is hurt in Philadelphia, and it's a big market. You're going to have a lot of pressure on you. He's probably going to get let go. I think Doc Rivers, oh man, I think Doc Rivers is just bad overall. Like, should they fire him? Probably not, because they just gave him that extension. I mean, it's not my money, right? I mean, they probably should fire him at the end. I'm just not a Doc Rivers guy. And I never really was one. I mean, like in Boston, that was his peak days. I mean, I was like 8 years old when they won the title. I'm like, oh, he's a great coach. And then you're watching him throughout those Clippers days. And then you're watching him throughout the Philly days. And you're like, all right, maybe he's not the best coach in the world. And how many chances is he going to get? Is there really no other coaches out there in Milwaukee? You really couldn't just do a little bit of homework and hire James Borrego? You could just do a little bit of homework and hire Kenny Atkinson? Well, I guess you can't really do that mid-year, so never mind. I guess I am wrong there because they fired Adrian Griffin in the middle of the year, and you can't just poach another team's head coach. So, all right, I guess that's the best they could have done instead of promoting an assistant, which was like Joe Lundy. forget the assistant's name. I just think Doc Rivers is a bad coach. Should they fire him? You know, I don't think the Bucks being disappointing this year is also on Doc. Like River or Lillard's back to his form, and unfortunately he's out for the year. Giannis is still playing like an MVP candidate. I mean, there's the Bobby Portis suspension. There's been some injuries. Though honestly, you could throw this more on the front office, I would say, than Doc Rivers and the team underperforming. And it looks like if Damian Lillard, like that blood clot is going to linger, we're going to get another year with no Damian Lillard and Giannis in the playoffs, which is a shame. For Billy Donovan, I don't know. Like, I think you could do better, but I think you could do worse. He's also been dealt a terrible hand there in Chicago. Like, he has a track record of winning 2 national titles with Florida. He was a solid coach in OKC. Not the best, but not the worst. And I don't know, like, in the NBA, there's not really a true thing as, like, longevity, right, as a head coach, especially for a team like the Bulls that have been just middle of the pack for the last decade. And they fired Tibbs, they fired Hoiberg, they fired Jim Boylan along the way. Honestly, I'm looking at Billy Donovan compared to those coaches that you had between Tibbs and him. You could have done so much worse. Yeah, you could have done better. You could have hired a better coach out there. But I honestly think Billy Donovan is making the most out of what he can with his roster. Like, that 2021 Bulls team was fantastic. And then Lonzo goes down. Levine was hurt last year. I mean, they invested a lot into DeRozan, Patrick Williams, Vucevic. A lot of these decisions could also go down on the front office. And I don't want to penalize the head coach for the front office. I don't think they should fire Billy Donovan, but I could see if they want to really spark a rebuild. Because I don't know if he wants to sit around for a rebuild, right? Next up, we do have Kenny Atkinson. I'm going to throw him in great, but I always thought Kenny Atkinson, like, he was a head coach of that 2019 Nets team that was the first, like, non-horrible year in Nets, like, for the Nets since they made that god-awful trade, basically, for Paul Pierce, and they lost in round 1, and they were entering into, like, a dark 3-year rebuild. He brought him out of it. And then KD got his wish, or Kyrie, whoever wanted him out, he gets fired in 2020. And then he's been an assistant in Golden State basically since, I think, LA for the Clippers. I don't know. I don't want to put too many coaches in elite, but I do think right now he's an elite coach. Now, he has an elite team, and that could be a product of it. So I think I'm just going to put him in great, but there is a chance I'm going to bump Kenny Atkinson up to elite because he's probably going to get coach of the year. Honestly, though, I don't know how many elite coaches we're going to have. So, I'll keep him in there for now. I don't want more than 5 elite coaches in that tier. So if he's the 6th man, he's going to go to great. Joe Maz. I think he's a good, I don't know. Do I think Joe Maz is a great head coach? Like, do I think he's a top 10 coach in the league? This is a tough one to do this early because I don't really know where this ballpark is going to be. I think for Maz, you could probably do better, but you could probably do worse now. I think Celtics fans and a lot of people in that city wanted him to get fired after that 2023 conference finals loss to the Heat, and then they win the NBA finals last year. Now, does Joe Maz have a phenomenal roster? Yes, 100%. Do I think he's a better head coach than Billy Donovan? Probably not. So maybe you could do better, could do worse. Like, I think Billy Donovan, it's always the head coaching thing at the NBA, right? Like, how much do these guys matter? Is it more so them being a locker room leader, or is it more with X's and O on the court? Or are you letting your players kind of do most of the work? They can't go out. They can't hit shots. They can't play defense. They're not up there in the front office deciding who's out there on the floor via trades or free agency or drafting. So there's only so much you can put in a coach's stock. And I think I just trust Billy Donovan's track record a little bit more than Mazzulla. I know Mazzulla has a ring and Billy Donovan doesn't, but Billy Donovan is a respected coach in the NBA and out of the NBA in college basketball. I think Ty Lue is an elite coach. This man has dealt with a bunch of characters. Obviously, he's got that ring in 2016 with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think there was at one point that the Lakers, like LeBron, really wanted him in LA, and they were willing to, I think, trade for him, or it was going to be kind of crazy. And he's honestly this has been probably one of the more impressive Ty Lue seasons. Now, I know 2020 in the bubble was a collapse for them, and I know they've had some underwhelming exits since, but he can't control Paul George's health or Kawhi Leonard's health. And right now, this team, before Kawhi Leonard came back, was playing some of the best basketball in the NBA team-wise. And I also think Trent Redden has done a phenomenal job as the executive of the Clippers. But I also think Ty Lue is an elite coach. I think he's a better coach than Kenny Atkinson if it really matters at the end of the day. But I think they're both great. And I think the Clippers are a team to watch in the playoffs if Kawhi and Harden are healthy. Like, Kawhi, man, if he's healthy, he's a top 10 player in the league. It's just we're finally getting that healthy stretch again. I hope his knees are okay. And we're getting a good Harden for the playoffs. I'm excited to watch the Clippers in a 7-game series. I hope they're not a playing tournament team. Well, Taylor Jenkins, I guess he's in this tier list. I know they promoted an assistant, which would be kind of unfair to put them in. I don't think I would have fired Taylor Jenkins. I'm just going to put him in the could do better, could do worse. I've always been a big fan of Taylor Jenkins. Kind of mentioned that at the beginning of the pod, that I think he's done so much for this Grizzlies team with all their injuries and the on and off the court distractions. Do I want to put him as a great head coach? I don't know, though. The Grizzlies are a good team this year, man. I know they have a lot of talent, but they've had their fair share of injuries. I don't know. I'm going to put them in could do better, could do worse. I really wonder who their next head coach is going to be. Are they going to promote somebody internally? Are they? I don't even know. Like maybe they're like, we're fine with an interim head coach. I forget who they promoted. And then are they going to like, I don't know. You're looking at some guys that are going to get fired at the end of the year. Like I don't think maybe they like James Borrego. Like he's going to be one of the top assistants. Like you have Chris Quinn. I mean, Johnny Bryant in Cleveland, former Knicks assistant as well. He's a Cavs assistant. Like Mike Brown. I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll talk about that at the end. Maybe I can't put him in great because he wouldn't have been fired, but I don't know. I think the Grizzlies could regret this a little bit, but maybe he really lost the locker room, and I'm sure Grizzlies fans wanted him gone. Like I thought he was going to get fired in the offseason if they were a first round exit. We'll see. I think Quinn Snyder could do better, could do worse. I think he's pretty much in that mid tier. I mean, I always like Quinn Snyder in Utah, and then I think Atlanta did a great job hiring him. And he's dealt with some weird roster turnover every year, but I think he gets the most out of their roster for sure. And they've been like sneaky, like one of the more injured teams over the last few years. And Trae Young has done incredible jobs, like in the fourth quarter, lifting this team up. And honestly, how much like does his impact, Quinn Snyder's, go into Dyson Daniels and Jalen Johnson's development and Onyeka Okongwu? So I think I may eventually bump up Taylor Jenkins, Billy Donovan, Joe Maz, or Quinn Snyder to grade. I just want to map this out. I think Eric Spoelstra is still an elite coach in this league. I know this year has been a disaster for the Heat, but think about how he's got to maintain that locker room with Jimmy Butler and his beef with Pat Riley. Like Spoelstra's in the middle of that. Like from all I've read and heard, that Jimmy was fine with Spoelstra. It's more so Pat Riley, and he's got to keep this locker room in check. And he's gotten so much out of guys over the last few years. Either it's a Gabe Vincent or a Max Strus. And I know Jimmy has been the main guy that's brought them to the finals in 2020 and 2023, but I do think Spo has made some really good adjustments throughout that. Next up, we have Charles Lee of the Charlotte Hornets. Unproven. I mean, he comes from a good tree over there in Boston. I still think he could be a fine head coach. He's going into, I mean, it's a new ownership and new front office, but still one of the more dysfunctional organizations over the last decade plus. So hopefully it's just a new vibe there in Charlotte, but this year's been kind of a disaster. Like Tijan Salon looks like he's still a few years away and more raw than maybe they even imagined. LaMelo was banged up this year, but more healthy than the last 2 years. Miller was banged up. Grant, Trey Mann. This team has been banged up left and right. Nick Smith hasn't really taken any steps. So yeah, Charles Lee's unproven. I hope the leash is long though in Charlotte. Next up, we have Will Hardy. I think Will Hardy's a really good coach. He's just dealt a really bad team right now. Could do better, could do worse. Maybe I'm just going to change this to good. Because I don't know how many great coaches I'm going to have. Because I like Will Hardy. Would I rather have Quinn Snyder or Taylor Jenkins over Will Hardy? Probably. Like Will Hardy or Maz is a debate. Because Will Hardy was going to replace Ime Udoka. But then Danny Ainge poached him before all that went down and that scandal went down. And Ime Udoka gets fired from Boston. And Hardy was the next in line. And then Hardy ends up becoming the head coach there in Utah. I think they still win a title with Hardy. I don't think there's that much of a difference between Maz and Hardy. I just got to show Maz the respect because of the title they won last year. So he's going in tier 3. I might reword this by the end of it. Mike Brown, I mean, he won coach of the year not too long ago. I mean, he got fired. So I guess this would be Doug Christie. So I'm just going to pretend Mike Brown's Doug Christie. He's just going to go in unproven. Tibbs, oh man. I don't think Tibbs is a bad head coach. And I've watched some bad coaches in my Knicks lifetime. I've watched Jeff Hornacek. I've watched Phil Jackson was GM. I watched David Fizdale is who I meant to say. I've watched Isaiah Thomas, watched Larry Brown. I've watched some bad Knicks head coaches. And there's even some that I'm glad I'm forgetting because I don't even want to remember those days. I guess D'Antoni and you had Woodson for a little bit. I think Tibbs, you could do a lot worse than Tibbs. I think he's one of the smartest minds out there, especially on the defensive end of the floor. Does he play his starters too much? Yeah, 100%. Do I think this year, though, I can cut him some slack with the starter usage a little bit? Like, I know it sucks that you feel like he's running the starters into the ground, but the Knicks have one of the worst bench units in the NBA. And if you had to throw out Precious Achiuwa or Landry Shamet or DeLon Wright or in the beginning of the year, Jericho Sims, yeah, you would be struggling too, having a deep rotation and not wanting to play Cat, Brunson, Hart, Bridges, and Anunoby a crap ton of minutes. This Knicks team is not deep at all, so Tibbs has to rely a lot on that core 5, and you got McBride and Mitchell Robinson finally came back. I do think you could do a lot worse. I'm trying to figure out who I like the most. Like, I think Taylor Jenkins might be the best out of this tier. that I threw Tibbs in tier 3, but we'll see. JJ Redick, I mean, I think he's a good coach already. I think he's a very smart mind. He's going to continue to get better. So I'm going to use the cop out unproven just because it's year 1. But I don't know. I don't know if JJ Redick's the best first year head coach because there's some good ones. There's at least one other good one that we'll talk about. All right, next up we do have Jamahl Mosley of the Orlando Magic. I mean, people really liked him at the beginning of the year. I mean, he's also dealt with so many injuries this year. I can't really put him in unproven because he like came out with that crop with like Wes Unseld Jr. who hasn't really made it through. I don't know if I want to put him in bad. Maybe could do better, could do worse. I think this is something we're gonna have to reorganize. I mean, Jason Kidd, this is gonna be really tough actually to go through this. So let me do some where I know that I think really are some great coaches. So I think Ime Udoka is either a great or an elite coach. So let's throw him up there because he's turned that Rockets franchise around. He's someone that's tough. Like he's going to be hard on his players and he's going to get the best out of them. And he's done a great job developing his young core. Something maybe I didn't know how good he was going to be, getting the best out of Şengün and Amen and Easton and Green. And he's done a great job trying to get the most he can out of his young core. And he's kept the locker room in check. Like, you got Dillon Brooks in there, who can be a head case for you sometimes, but it feels like Dillon Brooks has cooled down the antics a little bit there in Houston. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to make another tier because I don't want to put so many people here in. Like, maybe I'm going to have average, and then I'm just going to have, like, above average, because I do think I can, I do think I can kind of change this a little bit. So, the new tier 3 will be above average, and then there's going to be average as well. So, let's do something like that. Above average, I'm going to bump up Quinn Snyder. I'm going to bump up Taylor Jenkins. I'm going to bump up Tibbs. And I might just bump up Maz just because he got a ring. So, yeah. Tier 2, we just have Ime Udoka. Tier 3, we do have Quinn Snyder, Taylor Jenkins, Tom Thibodeau, and we do have Joe Mazzulla. In average, you have Billy Donovan, Will Hardy, and you do have Jamahl Mosley. Jason Kidd. I mean, do I think Jason Kidd's a great head coach? He's gone to a finals. He's gone to a conference finals, but I think there's a common denominator there. Luka Doncic. So I think we're about to see a very tough test for Jason Kidd. I'm going to throw him at above average for right now. Next up, we have Jordi Fernandez. Cop out, unproven, but you can make an argument. I mean, I don't know if he's the best like rookie head coach this year because JJ Redick is, but like JJ Redick's team is so much better than Jordi Fernandez's team over there in Brooklyn, and he's kept them in so many close games this year. So he's unproven, but I do think he has been a fantastic coach, and I do think the Nets found the right man for the job going forward. Mike Malone. I think Mike Malone's like an average head coach. I don't think he's the best coach in the world. I know we got a ring in 2023, but how much is like that on the team, right, in Mike Malone? And I do think there's been some disappointing seasons for Mike Malone and a long tenured Nuggets career. So I'm going to throw him an average there. Willie Green, I mean, relative to everybody here, I mean, this year, I mean, everyone's been hurt, but they've kind of been underachieving. I don't want to say that anyone should be fired at the end of the year. Like, I feel bad doing that. So I'm going to throw Willie Green neither average or in bad. We'll get to that in a little bit. Rick Carlisle, I mean, he's a smart mind, but the other night, not calling a timeout to get Halliburton in the game in that loss against the Pacers, I think I'm going to throw him at above average. Like, yeah, he's got a ring, but that was a long time ago. That was in Obama's first tenure as the United States president. So we'll see if I want to change any of that. JB Bickerstaff, I mean, it's his first year, but he's been a great Cavs coach in the past at times and then gets fired, and he's done wonders for Detroit this year. I'm going to throw him at above average for now with Carlisle, but we're going to separate that. I think Darko Rajakovic, oh man, probably, like, is he a bad head coach relative to the league? Maybe we're just going to have him an average. Pop, I mean, Pop's an elite head coach. I'm going to give Pop the respect. He's still elite like mine, but I think at the end of the year, I mean, I'm sure he still wants the head coach. I'm sure like this is all he knows and does and like breathes, but at one point you gotta think about your health. And I do think like the Spurs, it might be better for everyone just to kind of go in a different direction. I guess Budenholzer's going to get fired at the end of the year, so I'm going to throw him there. I don't think like he can't get much out of this defense. I don't think they should have ever fired Frank Vogel. I just said I'm not going to put anybody in should be fired after the season. So I'm just going to delete that tier, and he's going to go in bed with Nick Nurse and Doc Rivers. Mark Daigneault, is he an elite head coach or does he have a great roster? I'm going to throw him in great with Ime Udoka for now. And I think it's really just trying to get a ballpark of these guys. And then I'm going to change some at the end. Chris Finch, I don't know. Like, do I think Chris Finch is that much better than Taylor Jenkins or Jason Kidd? Like, he brought them to the Western Conference Finals last year on a, torn Achilles or ACL off the bench. Maybe he goes in that great tier. Chauncey Billups, probably bad. I think, like, there's been a glimmer of hope towards the end of the year with this team. And honestly, it was like February and the beginning of March where this Blazers team was playing so hard. I think it'd be wise to go in a different direction in the offseason. I know he's still like new and he hasn't really been dealt the best rosters in the world, but I think I don't know. I just didn't really like how he's been developing the start of some of these young cores, like careers, like or young players' careers, like Scoots, or even Shaden Sharps. Steve Kerr, I think he's a great head coach. I don't think he's an elite head coach. He's definitely been a product of some great teams in the past, and we're gonna see him truly tested with Jimmy Butler. So I'm gonna have him in great, but he has been there for a while. Brian Keefe. This is his first full year. I know he's an interim last year. I'm gonna throw him in unproven. He was dealt like the worst roster in the league. Honestly, don't really like what Mitch Johnson has done, but I guess I'll throw him in unproven. He's been the interim for Popovich because I think that'll be mean, but I don't really think he's done the best job so far going forward. So if I was going to reorganize this, I think I'm going to drop Willie Green down to bad with Billups, Nurse, Rivers, and Budenholzer. In average, we got Mike Malone. We have Billy Donovan. We have, maybe this is mean to Mike Malone. Do I, you know what? I might drop Rick Carlisle to average and I'm going to bump up Mike Malone. Because Carlisle hasn't had really much playoff success. So he went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. But between that and the 2011 ring with the Mavericks, not a lot going on there. And once again, I just don't think the Pacers, like he made some good switches, like switching off Nembhard to Nesmith to guard Brunson against the Knicks. And he's made some good defensive adjustments. I don't know, though. Maybe I'm just a little bit lower on Carlisle. Pacers fans, you can let me know. Because you guys know your head coach better than me that's trying to do this on like a national, global, or just national scale and trying to talk about every team in a macro view. You guys can give a more micro view in the comments on YouTube or just let me know for sure. So right now I have elite. I have Lou, Spo, Atkinson, and out of respect, I have Pop. I don't mind throwing two more guys in there. I think I'm going to throw in Dagno and Ime Udoka. I think in this modern NBA, these guys are like elite head coaches for sure. I think in great, I'm going to have Finch. I'm going to have Kerr. Do I want to move up Tibbs into great? I don't know. I think Tibbs is a good coach. He just plays his guys a lot. I don't know. I think I might leave it at this. I think I'm going to bump up. I don't want to sound biased, but I'm going to bump up Tibbs. And I don't know if Jason Kidd's a great coach. Like we've seen him flame out earlier in like Brooklyn and Milwaukee, but he's found a home here in Dallas, and it's not his fault they traded away Luka Doncic. So maybe I'm going to put Kidd in great, but I think it's also helped that he's been able to coach Luka Doncic. And then above average, we're going to have Schneider, recently fired, Taylor Jenkins, Maz, Bickerstaff, and Mike Malone. In average, we're going to have Carlisle, Donovan, Hardy, Jamal Mosley, which maybe Magic fans would like higher than that. And then we're going to have Darko Rajakovic. Bad, we're going to have Willie Green, Billups, Nick Nurse, Doc Rivers, and Mike Budenholzer. And unproven, it's all the first-year guys. And I guess like Doug Christie, Charles Lee, JJ Redick, Jordy Fernandez, Mitch Johnson, and Brian Keefe. I do wonder how many of these guys could Greg Popovich, or not Greg Popovich, Kendrick Perkins is what I meant to say. Then I started looking at Pop. How many of these coaches could Greg Popovich look at or Stephen A and name? Now, I will say, though, like, it took me a second to figure out Mitch Johnson because, like, obviously he's fairly new. And I was like, oh, he looks so familiar. And he was the one that I was, like, tedious on. But I knew everybody else. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think of this head coach tier list. Let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with. If you guys are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, really appreciate a rating and review. And if you're watching on YouTube, appreciate a thumbs up. And let me know in the comments. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.